feeling that this is gonna be my day. Let's go to the brave space.
Welcome back to a new episode on The Brave Space. Today, I welcome again my dear friend and relationship coach, Eva Sazovska Andriessen. We will discover the link between childhood trauma and narcissistic relationships or unhealthy relationships, including narcissistic ones.
Yes, I work as a relationship coach, and also I support people who went through narcissistic abuse to support them to heal, because the trauma it's very intensive, and not many people know how to deal with it, because still a lot of psychologists don't have so good information about the narcissistic abuse, actually the impact on the people, because usually in past in the schools where they were taught about who is narcissist, but the effect of narcissistic abuse, it's known for maybe last 5-10 years. So I am really supporting people to get through it, and also because they don't sometimes get a lot of understanding in normal therapy. But I'm so happy that the awareness is increasing and more therapists and coaches know about it, because it's special and very different to normal relationship. And when, for example, therapist doesn't recognize that the toxic dynamic in the relationship, they can't help them, and they can make it even worse.
Many people confuse the identity. Many people confuse the intensity of a chaotic relationship with passion. And how do you define a trauma bond? And how is it fundamentally different from a healthy attachment?
Yeah, this confusion is very common, because when we have the amazing love, we think, wow, it's my soulmate, and it will be the best. But actually, the difference is that healthy attachment, that healthy relationship starts slowly, and there you can feel like safety, consistency, and it's building slowly. It's steady building, and it's very important. And I feel calm. But when you actually experience new relationship with narcissistic person, you create trauma bond, where is like you can experience intensity, inconsistency, and a lot of fear as well. And actually, it's not partnership, but it's an addiction. But sometimes we don't realize it, because it's the best love we ever experience. We feel so amazing how we didn't feel till this time. And this is the confusion. And this is also the red flag. If it's so intensive, and if you tell to yourself, oh, wow, it's incredible, I never experienced something like this, it's the red flag, and you should really notice what is happening. Because usually that trauma bond, which is unhealthy in relationships, it's formed through cycle of abuse, and where the person hurting you is also the person who comforts you. It's the reason it's so confusing, and because you have so big highs and downs, you don't know what is really happening, but you are getting addicted. In the narcissistic abuse, you create really high highs and really low lows. Yeah, it's really very different. And sometimes the brain thinks that it's a passion, that is something different, that it's the spark. But usually the spark is often just the nervous system signalizing the danger, not love. But it's confusing for us, because our interpretation, it's so incredible. Yeah, so it is the difference which I support awareness of this, because it's so important to start to notice it at the beginning of the relationship.
So an unhealthy relationship, to sum it up, an unhealthy relationship is very chaotic and is with very high feelings and low feelings, especially chaotic and confusing for yourself, because it's one person, it's the same person that provides you with this feeling. There is this person that provides you with love, but at the same time, this person provides you with guilt, shame, blame. And somehow you try to figure out what's happening, and you try to change the other person. That's the dynamic I experienced.
Yeah, because there is the thing that sometimes we want to change the other person to feel better, and then we're forgetting about ourselves. Yeah, we try to save the other person or tell them what they should do, but they don't like it. So it creates even more punishment or guilt or something else because they always blame you back. And because when people are confused, they usually, and also when they are attracted to this kind of people, they don't know how to put the healthy boundaries. It means this is okay for me, this is not okay for me, and they stand for it. But usually because we might say, I don't like this, but because there is no boundary, the other person still does it all the time. And also narcissistic people like to overcome your boundaries because it's challenge for them. They like it to explore. They like to get the control. So they don't really care about your feelings. Also the narcissistic scale is quite big. So sometimes you can experience a relationship with people who has just narcissistic traits or they have some personality traits to the narcissistic disorder. And so I always tell to my clients, you need to see if it's for you where you can live in relationship or not. If there is little bit of empathy, or if the other person still have some self reflection, even they have some narcissistic behavior, it's possible to change the relationship, the dynamic in the relationship if you both are willing to work on it. You can't change it on your own. You can put the boundaries, but if the person is too toxic, they will be overcoming it all the time, and you might feel just exhausted and not knowing what to do.
But in my personal opinion, it has a lot to do with really taking full responsibility from the person with the narcissistic traits for their behavior. And also still you can support them in your relationship to help them find a therapist or whatever, but they really have to take the steps themselves. Because from my personal opinion, from my personal experience, there was always a phase where they said, I apologize, I know this was not right, I don't want to be like this. And then they started something and maybe did one session with a coach or a therapist, and then they stopped it. And then they fell back into their behavior, and they started blaming others. It's their fault, was not a good therapist, nobody understands me. I totally agree that there is, it's not so easy to say this is a narcissist and this is not a narcissist, because there are people who have narcissistic traits. And then we have, I think, like 10% of people are like full-blown narcissists with really cruel behavior. That's what I read. And it's really, really difficult how you feel about this, what you can accept as narcissistic traits.
Exactly. It's really important for the person who is experiencing the abuse to feel what is like, if the person is willing to change or not. Because if it's the same, it really goes to this balance in your nerve system, and it's exhausting. And we might talk about it a little bit later, that it's really when your nerve system is always in stress, waiting for another attack, it's hard for the body, and the cortisol level is rising all the time. But we are still hoping for get some dopamine, which creates the addiction, which I would like to also mention, because it's sometimes we think like how it's possible, like maybe you even know your friends or family, or you are in that relationship, and you think, oh, how I can leave, because it's impossible to leave. I want to leave, but I can't. And there is the thing, because we get addicted to that drama, to that person. And I like the comparison to like a slot machine. Because if you go to play with slot machine and you never win, you will walk away. But it's the same with the narcissistic person in a relationship. Like in the slot machine, you win occasionally and unpredictably. So you stay really glued to the machine, yeah? Because you hope for another win. And this is the same how narcissist operates. They really are giving you some cruelty, coldness, and suddenly burst of love. Later on, only breadcrumbs, little bits of love. But because you still believe that you might get the love as you got at the beginning of relationship, you try to be the best and you try to do everything for that person to feel again the dopamine. Yeah. So actually that unpredictability causes in the people who are in the narcissistic relationship, like dopamine levels spikes. Yeah. So, and they are much more higher when it's unpredictable than it would be with consistent love. It's the reason people stay so long, even it was so painful, because they are still waiting and hoping for that they might change or that they will get again what they got in the beginning of relationship or what they get sometimes in the relationship. Yeah. So it's not about that they enjoy the pain, but it's because they can't live because they got like biochemically addicted to that random moment of relief.
This is the term intermittent reinforcement.
Yes.
What you're explaining, and the mechanism, how biochemical addiction is created by a narcissistic bond.
Yeah. So the trauma bond, to really release the trauma bond, it's very hard and it's a long process. And sometimes people are not successful for the first time. Maybe they need to do it more times, because when they really get, oh, it's not for me, I am going to leave this relationship, the narcissist person usually change and they do hoovering, which is something like love bombing, but hoovering to get them to stay in the relationship or hoover them back to the relationship. It's again very intensive. Suddenly they do everything you wanted. And they, of course, they know what you want, what you love. So they give you everything to get you back. And so when I actually did a video about hoovering, and there are comments, and I have also experienced this with my clients, that they come back to the relationship many, many times because of that hope that they are really changed. They got that they changed. And we believe that they change because you always compare others with yourselves, and you probably change because to really sustain yourself and work on your happiness level or be calm again and heal yourself, it's a work. So you did some work and you expect that also they might did some work, yeah? And usually it's not that what is happening. It is very confusing and very disappointing, and the pain is usually getting bigger and bigger, and that some desperation is really high in these people.
Can you walk us through the concept of cognitive dissonance in this context and why it makes leaving so incredibly difficult? What is this cognitive dissonance? If you can, I know you have been talking about this now, but if you can sum it up.
Yeah, like cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort of holding two conflicting beliefs at the same time. Yeah, because like you are like living in two realities. He loves me and he must be my soulmate. And other side, he's abusing me and he's dangerous. Yeah, so it's really cognitive dissonance because you have these two beliefs which are conflicting, and it really creates a lot of chaos inside because like it's so hard for the brain to handle this tension. And the brain always tries to sort it out, like how to sort it out, these conflicting beliefs, which both of are true. So, and because there is the trauma bond already created, so in the end, the victims of narcissistic abuse go to denying of abuse and denying the abusive reality because it's more comfortable. And it's for them, it's they feel he loves me. There is so amazing love. So there must be some misunderstanding. Maybe I made him angry. Maybe it's my fault. And they try to find the fault within themselves. Or they start to excuse their behavior. Maybe they had bad days, so they just punish me or abuse me because they didn't just good day. And they start to gaslight themselves to keep the attachment because there is already the addiction and the trauma bonding. Yeah. So this is very dangerous when actually the victims of narcissistic abuse start to gaslight themselves because it's hard. But it's also easier for the brain to accept the pain than really still be in that conflict. And
Like
then,
to
yeah,
I would like to dig a little bit deeper into this conflict of the person experiencing narcissistic abuse to hold a conflict, to not try to immediately solve it. For me, it's very hard to hold conflicts in my personal surrounding. And I know that it comes from my childhood background that I never felt safe. So I think, of course, we cannot generalize this for all people, but I think that this, I don't want to say inability, but that it's really difficult for you to stay in a conflict for a certain time and not immediately try to solve it, not immediately when a narcissistic person blames you, you try to abandon yourself and give him everything he wants or she wants, just that she doesn't leave you. So I know that in my experience, it comes from very unhealthy attachment and feeling very unsafe as a child with my caretakers, with my parents.
yeah, your illusion, because it's normal for your brain. So your illusion is that it's actually safe to be in this drama. So sometimes when clients are starting to getting from that illusion and seeing the truth, they start to realize that they believed in the false safety, because they believed that with a narcissistic person they were safe, but they realized that it wasn't true. They were gaslighting themselves. Yeah, they are living usually in the illusion because they had to create the illusion to be in that relationship. And to really get out of it, I always say it's like getting out of the fog. Yeah, because fog is actually fear, obligation, and guilt. But when you are in the relationship, you experience this fog. And when you get back to the fresh air, you feel all these illusions. As well as you said, what you experience with your parents, it's normal. So you actually want this in your relationship. Even logically, you don't want that, yeah? But there is the attraction, there is that chemistry.
It is creating in German, it's like homoestase. Like your brain tries to create what is similar to your experience as a child. You think you feel safe with a narcissistic person because it's familiar to what you know from your childhood. And many women I talk about their narcissistic relationships with their partners, they really feel they cannot survive without the partner. Financially, emotionally, they really have this feeling, this need the man or the woman to survive.
Yeah, because usually when they are punished in the relationship, narcissistic people usually say that to them, who you would be without me? Like you can't do anything without me. You can't survive without me. They actually decrease their identity. They decrease their self-confidence because of that punishment, of that abuse. So they start to distrust themselves. They don't believe in themselves anymore. So it's the reason they think that they can't survive without a narcissistic person. But it's again the illusion. Because I usually say it like I created a good example. Like usually narcissistic people goes for healthy people or strong people, maybe who experienced trauma as a child, but they become strong because of what happened to them as a children. And I see them as a big tree, and the narcissistic, the ivy, who is going around the tree and taking your juice and taking your everything from you, like from the tree, yeah? And you start to think that you will not be able to survive without narcissistic. It's like the tree would start to think that they can't hold themselves without the ivy around. But it's actually opposite. Yeah, ivy is getting everything from you, as the narcissist is taking everything from you. So he will be more, or she will be more lost in their lives later. Usually they will be lost, but they usually find somebody else very quickly to turn around.
They need, they need energy from another person, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah. They are like, sometimes they are called like vampires. Yeah, they suck the energy or like from the people, and they love a lot of emotions because it gives them also the energy. So,
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
I think that also it's very important to realize that what actually caused you to stay there, it's also that cycle of abuse. Yeah. Again, like why we stay in these relationships. Yeah. We experience love bombing, as we mentioned at the beginning, and it's like a hook. It creates something like idealization, like, oh, he's the best or she's the best, as we said before. Yeah. And so narcissists can amazingly like mirror your dreams or values or everything. Like you feel that you are seen for the first time in your life. You are loved for the first time in your life. There is this feeling, incredible feeling, because they have very good cognitive empathy. They don't have the empathy for how you really feel, but they know what to say. That they will be able to control you. That they will be able to manipulate you. And they're usually trying, if you are okay to be manipulated. Yeah. So they usually from the right of the beginning of the relationship, they tell you what you should do. And if you listen, they are very happy. And if you don't listen to them, for example, like they always usually choose the restaurant and they ask you what you should put on, which dress. And if they don't like your dress, they will tell you to change your dress, for example. And you think, oh, it's so loving. They want me to feel nice and they want me to like look better. But it's way of control, and they actually testing the person if it's possible to manipulate them. And one of my clients told me that she was so full of fear that she wasn't able to go shopping for her clothes on her own because she was so scared to face his criticism that in the end she went for shopping only with him. So it starts at the beginning of the relationship. Everything like these subtle criticisms, or that everything must be the narcissistic way, like he or she tell you what you should do and you follow this.
So they seek control over you.
You see it usually because you are love bombed. Yeah? So this is literally a critical phase, because if the love bombing is good enough, you are hooked in the relationship. And as I said before, people who went through this narcissistic abuse, they remember this phase and think that it's who they really are. Yeah, they think that they are these amazing people who really sees me, and they just want to get this person back. So they try to behave the way to get this back, to really get these beautiful feelings again, and are overlooking all the red flags. Yeah, overlooking the intensity and the speed, and just feel, oh, it's soulmate. And this is the red flag. It will go in a few weeks from 0 to soulmate. That is really be careful, because if there is excessive communication and everything, it's like they already in the second day are talking about your future together. It's too much. And usually even the people feel that it's too much, but they just don't bother with that usually. But don't allow anybody to plan your future in the second or third date. It's too early, and it's love bombing. They call it future faking, because they promise you anything. Usually you will not get it anyway.
So can we sum up the narcissistic cycle? So you say the narcissistic cycle starts with love bombing?
Yes.
And what is the
devaluation?
The devaluation?
Yes. And in devaluation part, you really want to feel good again, yeah? So there is something not right. You are getting punishments, or like there is nothing good what you do, everything is wrong. And victims, what they start to do, it's overfunction, trying to be perfect, quieter, give the more attention to the abuser, because they try to fix it. They try to get the person back, like they believe that something happened. Usually they feel that they are wrong and they need to do something to get back to that beautiful, loving person, yeah? So it's very painful. And this devaluation part of the cycle, actually, it's really giving you erodes your identity. It goes really inside your identity. And in that moment, people start to really they don't listen. They start to not listening to their needs, their feelings. They actually even doesn't feel right about their feelings.
So
And
this is, so
yeah,
when you say, like, I would like to point this out a little bit more. So you say they start attacking your identity, which means like they start to describe you in the wrong way, like you're very selfish in a negative way. You're this and you're that. And for example, it was not in a love relationship, but it was in another relationship that I had, that I am very structured and organized, and I'm also very reliable. You know this from me?
yeah.
And I had this person, it was actually a woman, who started to constantly tell me that I was not reliable. I was chaotic, whatever. She started to describe me in ways that I was the total opposite of who I am, but
So
still
it's gaslighting, yeah? She was
yeah.
gaslighting you.
Yes. But what I did is, instead of like we can say this, oh, Eva, you have red hair. And then you would say to me, no, Laila, my hair is not red. But because of my own critical self, like I'm always like going first to myself, asking myself, what did I do wrong? She could go inside. She could open this little tiny insecurity door. So, but this is what you mean with they attack your identity, and you really start to be confused. Who am I? And you start
Yes,
to lose more and more, lose yourself, and more abandon your values.
exactly.
This is my, like, abandon your values or yourself. Like, first you had a boundary of this is too much for me, and then you start to postpone. No, I give it another try. No, I give it another try. No, I give it another try.
Yeah, and
And
this
this is the dangerous. I think that for me is the most dangerous thing, is that you really start to lose yourself.
exactly. And you are losing also the touch with yourself. You are disconnected from yourself in that moment because you try to regulate the narcissistic mood. Yeah, you try to regulate his or her mood, that you want that person back, you want to feel good again. You start to source your good feeling from outside. And maybe you already did it before, but it's more intensive now. And you are completely losing the connection and touch with yourself, with your feelings, needs, with your preferences, with the perception of reality. As you said, you started to doubt about your gifts, about your strengths. Yeah, it's happening in this phase because, like, as you said, it's opened the doors to insecurity. So, and of course, when they usually choose people with high empathy and self-reflection, so you go back to yourself and you reflect: did I read this wrong? Was it really wrong? And you start to doubt yourself and even go deeper. Yeah. So
Can
this is
from the narcissistic cycle, because we have on our questions like ignoring the red flags, and I would like sum up from the first phase of this love bombing. You said especially red flags are like being way too fast with planning the future, moving in with you, like they're very fast, very bombing you. And what else would be a red flag in the love bombing stage?
in the love bombing stage, like, but everything what is intense, when it's too much. Like there is usually you get very big gifts or invitation for holidays very early. They pay for holidays,
Yes.
incredible holidays, for
Yes.
example. Yeah. So, or they buy you stuff.
And they're very consuming, I think. They're very intensive and they're very consuming. And especially when you're a person that didn't receive a lot of love before from your parents and later on, then you might jump on this train because you feel so loved. I think that's the trauma bond. A lot of people who end up in narcissistic relationships all of a sudden feel loved and in a very intensive way, and they have been craving for this so long. Okay, then the second stage we said gaslighting,
Devaluation and
devaluation, gaslighting. What else?
like diminishing your identity,
Mm.
like making you wrong for everything, gaslighting you. So they may be emotional, physical abuse. So it's very intensive and very hard, very painful. And then it goes to like reconciliation. When narcissistic person sees that it's too much for you already, that or you are already too lost or you want to leave, they start to apologize and
Like
excusing.
I would like to if someone ignores your boundaries, it's really a red flag. And if you are not allowed, for example, to have an hour for yourself, a day for yourself, because they usually are very consuming, they want to control you, and they start to blame you because you want 1 hour, you want to go for a coffee with a friend, something like this. So you're not allowed to put boundaries anymore, and you're even blamed and shamed if you do kind of self-care, care for your social cycle, and so on. I think that's really, really red flags that show up in many, many narcissistic or unhealthy relationship. And the other thing is the control thing. Yeah, that they try to control you either directly and tell you you do this, you come now, and if you don't let yourself, if you don't give up yourself and follow the control, they start to punish you, which would be something like, you call me now, or if you don't call me now, I will end the relationship, for
Like
example.
threatening. There's a lot of threats as well happening.
Okay, and then you go to the next phase of reconciliation.
Yeah, when it's getting back to like apologizing, sometimes even the abuser apologize. Yeah, sometimes we think, oh, he's probably not narcissist because he apologized, but usually the apology, it's a little bit like fake apology. It's not usually
Yes.
not really from heart and from they really care about you. They just want to get you back when they want you to be. Yeah, so they are ready to do anything, give you gift or what you like again. Acceleration, you go back to the calm phase. Sometimes you get more love bombing in that phase again, and it goes all the time around. And that peaceful part or love bombing part, it's getting shorter and shorter, and that abusive part is getting longer and longer. Yeah, so it's like that they really sometimes like you feel so diminished and you are ready to leave the relationship, but then they do always something to keep you in the relationship. Yeah, and they use trauma
Yes.
bond to keep you in. So it's the reason it's so very hard to leave. And so for many people, they don't want to believe that they are in this kind of relationship because there are always so many good things as well.
Yes, they give you some sort of hope, but I always say, don't listen to the words, watch the actions, because I had friendships with narcissistic people. And like you say, they apologize for 1 day and they give you breadcrumb of hope. They say, oh, yeah, I can really see what I did wrong, but then they don't take any action. They don't try to change themselves, or they think it will solve itself, it will go away. Like if you have narcissistic traits, you really need a therapy or a coach. You really need help, because it's very, very deep wounds that make you behave the way you are. So I don't want to make the narcissist always the black and white, the black sheep, but a narcissist is a deeply wounded person carrying a lot of guilt and shame himself, and being unable to deal and process it and have a look at it and just acting it out on the other person.
Yeah, I would like to also name like why you are choosing the narcissist, where
Oh, yes.
because actually it's coming from our childhood experience.
Mm-hmm.
And usually we gravitate to something which is familiar, which is normal for us, even it's painful.
Mm.
So it's our norm in childhood, we usually want also in the adulthood, unconsciously. Even we say, oh, I don't want to have my partner as my dad was. We usually attract that person. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and what is really confusing, that usually we feel that spark with this kind of people who actually bring our trauma back to surface, and we go out with healthy, calm people. It's usually my clients say, oh, it's so boring, or it's like, oh, we don't do nothing and there is not really spark, because it's something what we didn't used to, so we don't know what to do with it, and so we push it away. So lots of women push very nice guys away because they just wanted unconsciously the trauma from the childhood. And sometimes even people don't realize that it's already trauma. They are repeating the trauma from the childhood because till they really realize what is really happening, they sometimes consider their childhood as a nice because it was the norm for them. Yeah. So sometimes it's obvious that childhood was horrible, but sometimes it's not so obvious because the abuse was normalized. Yeah. So they just feel, okay, like my parents were good. Most of the time it was amazing. But when I dig inside and see what was happening, we are discovering the patterns. And it's not about blaming the parents because you can't change your past. It's about to notice the patterns, because when you notice what is affecting you, then you can change it. Yeah. So it's really important to see. Usually people are experiencing in the relationship the same they experience with their father or mother or with both parents. And it's sometimes like incredible how it can be repeated again. Yeah, because it's what we attract, what we go for.
Yeah, especially when it hasn't been a big T trauma, like the physical abuse that we would consider as a bad childhood, especially if it's a quote, quote, just a small trauma like not being loved or seen for who you are. A lot of people would say, no, I had a normal childhood. My parents, yes, they were working a lot, but I had a normal childhood, and it would take them until they see it in another person, or they start to talk to another person that gives them another healthy experience. It can take a very long time, because I go to kindergarten school, and we talk a lot about when children start to reflect. And it can happen that when you go to school and you start have friends who have healthy attachment with their parents, it can happen to you that you start to realize, okay, something is wrong in my home. But if you don't have this experience, it can take you very, very long time until you're 30, 40, 50s, until you recognize, okay, I have something I have to look at in my childhood. Yeah, you just named it. It's a lot of repeating or attracting the same behavior that you were exposed as a child. Like, it could be that you had a narcissistic parent. Can it also happen that someone with a happy childhood, with happy attachment style to his parents, end up in a narcissistic relationship?
Like, I think it depends. If the person is really healthy, they can recognize the manipulation at the beginning. They wouldn't like it. And if they think that they are healthy and are still ended up in the narcissistic relationship, they might be something they are not aware of. Sometimes for me, it takes even 10 sessions to get to the wound, or for people to see that they weren't accepted unconditionally or loved unconditionally. That they were told that, oh, you should do it this way. They weren't accepted for who they are, but they saw it as a norm. They always thought, oh, my parents were supporting me. They always told me that I should be better, and they were supporting me to get to that at that school. I didn't want that, but I feel that it was good for me. Yeah, so it was dismissing their personality, and they just don't see it as something wrong and what affects them. But usually there is the thing why they can be manipulated. Yeah, and also like sometimes they have like their memories are suppressed. So if they have, oh, I had so amazing childhood, and I heard this, I always know that it's not true, because there is no amazing childhood. There is always something happening. Usually people suppress their bad memories to protect themselves. So I wish for all people to have healthy childhood and happy families. And I believe that they exist. And of course, they don't come to me as for coach, but usually there is always something hidden. And like if you are in a narcissistic relationship, it's good to have a look deep inside what is really affecting you, because it's important for you for next relationship or improve this relationship, to be more loving to yourself and to be able to go through this relationship and more create or improve the relationship tomorrow.
As I mentioned before, I go to the kindergarten teacher school at the moment, and we talk a lot about education style and parents. And I wouldn't say that it needs a narcissistic or really violent person to create a wound in a child. I have very good parents that only want the best for their children, but still they might, like you say, dismiss the feelings of the child or do something that is not really healthy because they think it's the best for the child, but it's not, because it's against. A good example could be like many parents want their children to go to the best school, to have the best education, and they pay for private schools and they want them to have good chances later on at work. But there might be children who, for them, not the best to choose the school who creates the most output on the work market. It might be an alternative school, and yeah, it can create wounds that later on can foster unhealthy relationship.
What I would like to say, what I really like, what Gabor Mate says, that the trauma doesn't cause what happened to you, but what story you created, what about happened to you. Yeah. So, and our brain is designed to create meanings all the time. So if you didn't experience anything worse than one screaming from your mother, it might be the worst experience of your life, and you create a meaning unconsciously. My mom doesn't love me. And it's already in the subconscious mind, and you start to looking for the evidence of that it's true, and you always find the evidence because the mom might be tired or angry because of the work issues, or they conflict with the dad, and it creates the trauma only because you didn't experience anything worse. So because the brain, it creates the meaning. So I think that it's impossible to protect our children from not to have anything, any
Yes.
false beliefs, because our brain is set up this way. Like if we are aware that we did something wrong, like we were nice to our kids, we can always go to apologize. We can always say, "Oh, sorry, I was angry because I had problems with my job. It doesn't have anything to do with you, what I said." So you can clear it and clean it, but you can't do it always. And if you try to do it always, then you have the teacher or trainer or somebody else who will create some meaning. So I think that it's like really impossible to protect our children. But what we can do is do our best and forgive ourselves, and when we can't do our best, because we are human beings with emotions and with different beliefs and patterns we have from childhood, and we are not sometimes even aware of it. But it's like, okay, it's how we can live the life where we feel happy and content, and what we can do for it, and not make ourselves wrong for every time when we are, for example, angry, to be worried that we will cause the trauma in the kids. Yes, sometimes it's not easy to really find the balance between,
Yes.
because we are not perfect, we can't be perfect. Yeah, but and in some way we are perfect because we are complete people. Even if we have traumas, we are complete and whole people.
I prefer of feeling perfect. I think authenticity is for me my word, because I might in many things be different to other people, and this feeling or this word of perfectionism, it creates tension inside myself between this word and who I am. So I think that's also what we teach the children in the kindergarten. It's good to be authentic, and everyone is different, and this is perfect. It's perfect that everyone is different, and you are perfect the way you are in terms of your imperfectionism.
This is so important, yeah, to support people, to support your kids to be authentic. I heard it also from Gabor Mate. He said usually children choose authenticity or attachment, because if the parents don't allow them to be authentic, so then the children are worried that they might lose the parents. They choose attachment, and usually it's unhealthy attachment to
Yes.
to do what parents want, what they should do. to feel safe. And
Yeah.
children do anything to feel safe because it's for them to survive. Yeah. So, for example, if they have very abusive childhood, they create people pleaser response or fawn response because they want them to feel safe through how the parents feel. So they want to avoid the rejections. So they try to really please the parent to feel good. So
Yes.
this, if the child is trying to please you again, it's not good for your child. So it's important to see, okay, what I can do for child to feel more authentic.
I would like to point out that attachment is the highest need of a child or a baby, because human beings, we are the most dependent when we come to this earth from our parents. So it's our highest need to have a person that takes care of us. So a child would literally do everything to keep up this attachment and would rather choose to abandon himself and go to an adaptation. Like you say, the fawn response could be an adaptation to go to people pleasing and take on any guilt, any blame, any shame, any anger that throws an unhealthy or overwhelmed parent onto you.
Yeah, and if you create this in your childhood, that you as an adult, you are actually drawn to narcissistic people because you are pre-programmed to overgive, self-abandon yourself. So you are easy target for narcissistic people.
And you
Yeah.
try to change the story of your childhood. You try to change the person and to make, you know what I mean? You have this unfinished story in your subconscious mind, and you choose a person that is similar or like your father and your mother because you want to change the narrative. You want to change this person to have now the good mother and the good father. You made them change, which adds to you worthiness. You think it adds to you worthiness, but
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
actually something that's going on in your mind is trying to change the past rather than making a cut and be conscious about what happened in your past and be really aware of red flags, of unhealthy behavior, and also grow out the patterns yourself. We worked a long time together. Also myself, I had to grow up the false beliefs I formed in my childhood. Yeah. So you have to identify them in order to go from an unhealthy attachment or relationship to a healthy attachment. Should we go to the last question? That many survivors feel shame for allowing the abuse. And can you explain why this isn't a matter of intelligence or strength, but rather a profound exploitation of their deepest developmental wounds?
Yeah, this is so important to see because you cannot logic your way of a biological trigger. So narcissistic abuse, it's not a battle with your intellect because it's already happening in your attachment system. It's happening in your nerve system. So narcissists exploit traits like high empathy, loyalty, and capacity for forgiveness because usually they are finding people who can abuse, and predator always can recognize the person. Yeah, so when you have these beautiful traits, people pleasing and being very loyal and empath, you attract these people because it's not about that you are weak, but because it's your bio. You are set up like this biologically because like you are pre-programmed to overgive, people please. So it's not here in the head, and also the trauma bond is so strong that there is also like people sometimes told me, "Oh, I'm so stupid. I went back to this," and it's not about that you are that person is stupid. It's about because it's in the subconscious mind, it's stronger than them, it's in the biology, it's in the nerve system. So it's the reason to heal is the long process, and it takes longer than people sometimes want. Yeah, because they feel after few months that they are better and that they are over it, and then they get the contact back and they go back to the relationship even after 6 or 9 months. So it's usually healing takes between 2 to 3. I would say 1 to 3 years, because depends what really happened in your past. So it's really, if you would like to get out of this cycle and out of your pre-programmed stuff within yourself, you're actually fighting the battle with your biology. So
Yes. Yes.
is the reason it takes so long time, and it's not easy because you need to really change yourself, the way how you are set up, and it's freeing you. It's you getting freedom, but sometimes it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I so love this, what you're saying, because I know this myself, that I started to blame myself because I couldn't solve it with my mind, because my nervous system was still reacting to it.
Yeah.
So especially a lot of people who have traumatic experiences in their childhood, they are very resilient and they are very highly functional. A lot of people who have high positions in companies, they're highly functional because they are highly capable, but they can still carry these wounds, and these wounds then can show up in unhealthy relationships, but also in unhealthy work. And yeah, it's so important that you cannot solve it with your mind. You have to go back and have a look at your nervous system that is conditioned the way it is. And at the beginning, we have been talking about this capability to hold a conflict and not immediately try to solve it, because your nervous system is in high alert. I need this person. I feel you're somehow addicted to this person and the relationship is threatened. So you're in high alert and all your system is consumed by this unhealthy situation. In the next episode, we will talk a little bit about how you can soothing in these moments of when there is a conflict, to hold yourself and not immediately go into fawning and soothing and people pleasing the other person. So you start to cut the cycle of the narcissistic relationship. Yes. So is there anything else that you would like to add to this episode?
So I would like to say, if you feel that you are stuck in narcissistic relationship, just be patient with yourself. You don't need to rush and leave immediately, only if there is physical abuse. If it's physical abuse, call the support link and leave as soon as possible. But if it's not like really physical abuse there, it's good to find first the strengths within yourself with support of coach or therapist to be able to leave and sustain your decision and to create something better. So it's always the process. So it's not, don't rush it. Take your time, be gentle to yourself, and just start with loving yourself, which is maybe sometimes hard job, but it's so essential and important.
Beautifully said, Eva. Thank you so much for your time, and to all our listeners, thank you for being with us and devoting your time to growing and learning. Please hit the subscribe button so you're not going to miss our next episode on how you can learn to hold yourself in difficult situations. Yeah. Bye from the brave space.
Bye-bye.